Welcome to the Smart Gamble, week 17. Believe it or not, Happy New Year to everyone out there listening or watching wherever you may be. I'm Norm, of course, joined by Lily and CJ. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We took last week off for the holidays. Holidays officially done. So back to business. New year. We're going to
Yes, sir.
still same winning though, right?
We are.
So we're gonna jump right into all the same usual stuff that we do. It is championship week in fantasy, so I know some people might be definitely waiting for some advice for that. But more so than that, you want to start off the year on a good foot with filling that bankroll with some wins. Lily, we're gonna be waiting for your block of the week. And guys, how was the holidays? Anything interesting happen? Stuff like that?
Well, my neighborhood app, we had somebody go out their back door and find a bobcat sitting on their wall in the backyard. So, Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise.
So be careful with those bobcats out there, folks in Vegas.
Oh, boy. So we played White Elephant at my cousin Denise's house. Yep. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically a Secret Santa. But when it's your turn, you can decide to either steal someone else's gift that they've already opened, or you can open a new gift. So my cousin Henry got this hat that he was absolutely so in love with. He kept saying it's a Peaky Blinders hat. So if anybody has ever seen that show, you would know exactly what hat he was talking about. And he just kept talking about it all night, all night. We were like taking bets that he was going to sleep with the hat that night.
Nice.
That's great. Yeah, we had like a door prize at my sister-in-law's aunt's house, and
Nice.
everyone goes around taking the ticket. Whoever has literally, I think it was 5 people in a row to start off took their own ticket. So it was like, this thing's rigged here. Fun stuff though, fun stuff. Let's get down to business though, because I mentioned we're all waiting for Lily's lock of the week. We're gonna jump into the all the picks, Hayden's picks, and the season's like ending. This would be the last week of the season had they not ended the last game or added one more game. So
That's true.
Right.
But
let's talk about CJ and I in the pool.
I was
How
about
we're
to
doing.
say, before we jump into this week's pool, we're almost at the end of the season here. How are you guys doing? Because Lily was mentioning where she's at in that pool stuff.
Number 4, baby. Number 4. Crazy in
Yeah.
the Poconos.
You know something? I used to go to these websites, like CBSSports.com and USA Today, and get the so-called experts picks on who they're picking this week. But I realized that, hey, we are the experts. Right now I am
Absolutely.
133 and 107 for the year. Lily's even better at 136 and 104. So hey,
That's
we're
making
the
money.
experts.
And I want to mention that the only so-called expert that was beating me, I am now 5 games ahead of him. So
There you go.
5 games is not a small margin either.
woo-hoo.
Exactly.
That's
So
with only
So
one.
I am beating all the experts now.
Except yourself, because you're the expert. So,
That's
right.
You are the
That's
expert.
right. In the days of hey, we're sitting here in 2022 now. We're in the future. Everyone can be an expert, right? But we've got the numbers to back it up here.
Mm.
And right there, that goes to show it. So I guess with enough talking, let's jump into it. Let's give some advice and bets out.
Yeah. So let's talk about championship week. Norm, fantasy.
Right. It is fantasy championship week. Unless you're in one of those weird leagues that actually plays the last week of the season, which if you're in a league like that, leave it next year because you don't want to do that. It is nightmare. I'm sure we'll be talking about it next week, guys. Betting wise, it's the same when you have players resting and stuff. It's already hard enough with COVID, right? Like now with when you're going to get the players resting and whatnot. That's why most fantasy leagues do not play the last week of the season. So it is championship week this week. Quick advice before some players start and sit for championship week. The rule I always follow in fantasy and in life: dance with the girl you brought. The players, as long as they're not injured and out with COVID or whatever it may be, play the guys that got you there. Even if you end up losing, because trust me, I haven't followed this my entire life in fantasy. If you start trying to get cute in championship, we can go, oh, well, this guy, he's playing. I just picked him up last week and I've never played him before, but he might be worth playing this week. And you're going to sit the guy that got you there. That's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. So play the guys that got you there is my general advice for championship week.
That's good advice.
Very good. So who are some sneaky starts this week, Norm?
Complete opposite of what I just said. If Derek Umbawale is available, pick him up. Jacksonville is without James Robinson and Carlos Hyde. Gumbawale is a guy that, if you've been playing fantasy the last few years, is not that unfamiliar of a name. He's bounced around the league on a couple teams now. So he's got experience. He isn't some guy that hasn't played in the NFL before. And with all those guys out, he's going to be a guy that, just based on volume, is going to get you probably double-digit points against. Now, he's playing New England. Jacksonville against New England's not the greatest matchup that you'd want to be backing up in championship. Nope. But believe it or not, New England against running backs, fantasy-wise, is a bottom third team in the league. They led up the 13th most points in the league against fantasy running backs. So I'm not saying Jacksonville's going to go out and beat the Patriots, because Derek Umbawale is going to put up points, but I think if you're looking for a running back with all the COVID issues and whatnot, he is worth a guy that's, just based on volume, is at least not going to put up a goose egg for you. And that's in championship week. That's all you're looking for. One more guy as well that actually was just available in one league. I'm in a dynasty league I'm out of, but just even for next year, Allen Lazard for Green Bay, going up against Minnesota, whose pass defense has not been great all year. No Kirk Cousins as well, so you would imagine Green Bay is going to have the ball a lot, with Sean Mannion playing quarterback for the Vikings. Allen Lazard, only 2 catches last week, but one of them was a touchdown. Devontae Adams can't catch every single ball that Rodgers is going to throw. So I like Allen Lazard as a sneaky start this week as well.
Cool. Who are some players to avoid this week, Norm?
I'll start with this one. Saquon Barkley.
Really? Okay.
I know. Yeah. If I just said as well, play the guys that got you there. If you're playing Saquon Barkley each week, you're probably not in the championship, because he hasn't been good this season. Outside of two weeks very early on in the season, he hasn't been the Saquon that Giants fans, like myself, or Saquon owners would like. But there was talks of even shutting him down for the rest of the season. And with the backup quarterbacks that the Giants have been shuffling through now lately, he's been even worse at putting up points. So if you're in a championship game with Saquon, I would avoid him this week. One more guy that you might actually be in a game with, but I might avoid as well. Chase Claypool has not been good recently, less than 10 points in 3 out of the last 4 weeks. And that Steelers offense, I was saying Ben Roethlisberger looked old early before we even started the show in week 7. And it seems like he's been getting almost worse and worse. He's had a couple of flashes in some weeks, but he seems to be getting older and older. And that Steelers offense seems to be getting worse and worse by the week. So I would be avoiding Chase Claypool if I can in my championship week. Any more advice? Dynasty tips. I love dynasty leagues, are my favorite thing now. If you need some off-season advice, thesmartgamble@gmail.com is how you can reach us. For at least for the next few weeks. I know that website going to be around here. Hopefully, maybe even next week. It'll be here before.
We're hoping for next week. Thesmartgamble.com.
Smartgamble.com. Keep an eye on that URL. But as for right now, smartgamble@gmail.com is the way to reach out. But let's jump in to some power rankings, Lily. Where are we at?
All righty. Okay. So Green Bay, number 1. Previously number 1.
Yeah, stay in there.
Number 2 is Kansas City, previously number 2.
We found solidarity at the top now.
Yes.
Right. 3, Rams, previously number 4. Tampa Bay is number 4, previously number 3.
Okay.
Number 5 is Indianapolis, previously number 6. Number 6 is, God, I can't read my handwriting. Dallas.
Okay.
Previously number 8. Yep. Number 7 is Buffalo, previously 9. Number 8 is New England, previously 7. Number 9, Cincinnati, previously number 12. They're back in the
Like it.
top 10,
I like it.
and we'll get to that. And number 10, Arizona, previously number 5.
Arizona's been they gotta pull the parachute here.
They do.
Yeah. I think we're starting to see some of the cream rise to the top. I mean, for a
Yeah.
while we were getting some wild swings. This team's up 4 spots, down 5 spots, and so forth. Now we're starting to see some of the teams that not only win for the most part every week, but play well enough to win every week. The Tampas and the Dallases and the Green Bays and so forth. So we're starting to see those playoff teams round into shape. So I'm not surprised at that top part of that power rankings. We're not seeing a whole lot of shifting among those teams because these guys are now the teams to watch. The teams that will
Right.
make you money every week are those teams.
Are we watching Dallas at number 5 because what they put up 52 points on Washington? Is that are we like they're higher than the Patriots? Are we saying if those two teams played right now that Dallas would win?
You know something? I think you probably making a good point. Patriots have been more consistent during the year, but you know something? Dallas is getting healthy now. Dallas is getting their
Sure.
defenses back. I
Yep,
think they figured out a
everybody's
way to kind of have Tony Pollard and Zeke kind of
Right.
coexist in the same backfield. I think we're seeing Dallas now coming to the team that they were supposed to be at the beginning of the year. So I would probably say, yeah, Dallas probably does beat New England.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I know I've got a bias, but yeah, you do bring up the points of getting healthy. All 3 wide receivers when they're good, and even the backfield that offense. Hey, I don't care if it's Washington. They did put up 52 points. That is a lot to put up on anyone.
That is.
All right, Lily, who's your daddy of the week?
Okay, so speaking of Cincinnati being in top 10 again, James Burrow. Come on.
Joe Burrow, huh?
Mind blowing. No, I'm sorry. I keep saying that. I'm sorry.
Good old Joe.
Yeah. Well, he had 525 yards passing. I keep doing this. I'm sorry, Norm.
That's all good.
Okay.
Here we go.
525 yards passing with 4 touchdowns and 143.2 quarterback rating. And for those of you who don't know, 158 is perfect.
Yeah.
So was nearly perfect. He's up there with the Warren Moons of the world, who scored 527 yards passing in one game. So he's my daddy of the week.
Even in today's age of throwing the ball 45 times a game, you don't see performances like that very often.
And supposedly there was some kind of talk, some jabbing from Wink Martindale, the Ravens defensive coordinator. He's basically saying, well, this guy is no Joe. He's no Aaron Rodgers and so forth. And Joe Burrow said, hey, buddy, I may not be Aaron Rodgers, but I'll kick your ass this week.
And
he did.
And he
Nice.
not only did he kick his ass last week, he did very similar the first time they played the Ravens. The Bengals destroyed the Ravens this season in their 2 matchups. And
They did.
that's why they're sitting, I believe that they're at the top of that division right now, aren't they?
Exactly. They are.
So, that is, I mean, Ravens ain't a slouch defense too in division. Like that's all I could think about when I saw Burrow putting up those points was 1, I got him on my dynasty league as my quarterback, love it. But 2, that picture, was it after either the semifinal game or the championship game when he won at LSU? Him in a locker room smoking a cigar. Like I love Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow has arrived. He has arrived.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, on the opposite end, who's coming into 2022 as the shit ass player of the week?
Oh, there's a definite shit ass player. Jake Fromm, Giants quarterback. Completed 6 out of 17 for 25 yards. What the hell?
Yeah. About
1
that.
TD. No, I'm sorry. No TDs and 1
No.
interception.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, it was pretty pathetic.
I was actually like, when I saw Joe Judge announce, hey, we're gonna give Fromm a chance to start. I'm like, what? You know what? Might as well see what we got. And even Joe Judge, like halfway through the game's like, oh, we saw what we got, and it ain't much.
Very true.
Too funny.
Dumpster fire. Very, very valid award for. And I loved him at Georgia, but that's a very valid award. All right, let's move on. 2022, Hayden, first pick for Hayden. He's got an appearance.
Yeah.
There's my baby. The baby.
He's like, Lily, put me down.
I know.
too
He's
early
like,
for
I'm
this."
trying to sleep, Ma. Leave me alone.
New year, we're still doing this. All right,
Okay,
Hayden,
so-
what do you got?
Hayden is giving us 2 picks this week.
Ooh,
Okay.
spoiling
He's
us.
giving us, are you guys ready?
Yep.
Miami and Cincinnati to
Hmm.
cover.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So he's back and he's back in his Tigers. Okay, he's back in the Bengals.
Absolutely.
I like that. And the Dolphins are you know what? Are they one of the more underrated teams? I believe they are in a
Absolutely.
playoff spot
They
right
st-
now.
They started 1-7. They've won their last 7 games to be 8-7 now.
Yeah, they've had one of the most up and down seasons I've ever seen in the NFL. Like you just mentioned, Liddy, 1-7 up front, and then now they won the last 7 games.
Right.
They're interesting, and yet they still are not totally sure about Tua going forward. I'm not quite sure why
Right.
that is.
Are
But,
you sure on Tua? Because I've definitely come around in the last few weeks, but I think the questioning was valid early on.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him at Alabama, and he had a terrible injury in his last
Yeah.
year and so forth. So I think part of maybe what was giving some pause for the Miami Brass was the fact that he wasn't really healthy. He wasn't throwing the ball
Yeah.
that well. He's throwing it much better now. I'm still not totally convinced that he might be the guy, but he's shown me enough. He's shown me enough. I mean, I wouldn't want to mortgage my future to get a guy like Deshaun Watson, and get rid of
No,
Tua.
I think
So
those talks are done now.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
they're
think
done.
the answer is that you can probably build a team around Tua and be okay. I
Right.
think that's kind of where they settled at.
Yeah, he's not a bring to your team and like you're a Super Bowl like contender all of a sudden, but the way Miami plays and the way Brian Flores coaches that team is it works for Tua. Like he is a quarterback that fits Brian Flores's scheme and kind of and mindset of coaching. So I think it's a good fit there. I'll say that at least.
I would agree.
All right.
All right.
Let's move on to we have a movie question this week, Lily.
We do. We have a movie quote. Here we go. Now, I always try to do movie quotes where you might be able to guess it even if you haven't seen the movie.
Content.
Okay. So
Okay.
This is another one of those. Okay. Every time you move tomorrow, I want you to be reminded that I've been here. Only me, you're mine.
That was a little bit of a head scratcher, Norm. I'm not sure about you, but
It is.
that was a little bit
It
of a
is.
head scratcher.
Yeah, it sounds like a rom-com or like like one of those lovey-dovey movies. I don't know.
Mm,
Chick flicks.
not really, kind of both, but anyway.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
I
no,
got
oh
another-
yeah, there's two ways you can think about that quote.
You got
No,
it.
Never mind.
You got it, Norm.
Never mind. Okay.
So then I was thinking what might be fun too, because it's the holidays, is just to name 5 stars, 5 celebrities who are in Christmas Vacation. Just as an add-on.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I like that. I watched that movie like 3 times in the last week. So.
Me too. So if I couldn't name 5 stars, I'm an idiot.
Too
My
funny.
shitter's full. Okay. All right, CJ, let's jump into we did this the last show we did, the over-unders, and I loved doing this. I think it was a great addition to the show. So let's jump into those.
Yeah, again, and I like the fact that, I mean, we'll get these things, I'll discuss these games on the table, and feel free to agree or disagree, which I think is a good thing, if we can kind of get our personal feelings about these things. The first one I like is keeping the local flavor, the Eagles and Washington. I think that Washington had their little run of 3 or 4 weeks and so
Yeah.
forth. Philadelphia's fighting for a playoff spot. I think this one, these teams are familiar. They're in the same division. I like the fact that this game feels like a 20-17 game. I like the under in this game for Philly and Washington.
Under. All right. I like it. It's funny. This was because we weren't on last week. So we did a show 2 weeks ago. And that's one of the games we picked 2 weeks ago too, because they've played twice in 3 weeks.
Twice in 3 weeks.
And I believe it went under by like 1.5 last time. So I tend to want to agree with the under there, but just because Washington put up or let up 52 points to Dallas last week,
52 points.
I think I'm going to take the over just because they've played twice in the last 3 weeks. You're right. The familiarity is there. I think it's going to benefit the offenses more too. They're both getting a little healthier on offense, although I know Antonio Gibson will be out for Washington. So that's going to be a loss for them, but I'm going to disagree and go with the over in this one.
Okay. Love it.
All right, next game.
Next game, I took the Rams and the Ravens. Interesting game on the board. I think the combination of the Rams becoming the team we thought they would become with OBJ now finding his groove there. Cooper Kupp is having a historically good season for them as a wide receiver. Baltimore is facing some desperation. They went from the team that we thought might be a Super Bowl contender to a team that might be out of the playoffs next week if they lose this game. So I think there's a desperation factor there. I know they haven't had Lamar there for a couple of weeks. He's going to come back hopefully this week.
Yeah.
So I think the combination of those things, I would then go lean toward the over in this game.
I'm going to be in agreement on this one. I like usually discourse, but I can't not take the over in this one just based on pretty much everything you just said. Lamar hopefully coming back should put the Ravens. When Lamar is there, the Ravens, they're scoring at least 20 points or so. That
Exactly
gets rolling. And the Rams, they might have supplanted the Cardinals as like maybe the best offense in the league with OBJ finally finding his groove in that offense. Life's too short to bet the under, so I'm going to take 2 overs this week. And funny enough, I believe, what do you have the number for this game? Because I know it kind of changes.
For the Rams Ravens, I have 46.5 according to ESPN.
6.5. Because all 3 games that we chose 2 weeks ago when we were there, they all had different numbers. All 3, the total ended up though being 44.
That's interesting.
Now, one of them I think pushed, one of them went under, and one of them went over because the numbers given out before the game were different, but all 3 ended up 44. So, but I'm going to take the over in this one as well.
All right.
Now games that we should stay away from. It's the new year, but we're going to stick with the same stuff. What are we staying away from, CJ?
Well, I would go first with the Cleveland and Pittsburgh game. Stay away from this game. This could be Big Ben's last home game ever. He's looking to retire. You mentioned some things earlier about Big Ben. He just isn't the same guy anymore. And I think I agree with you there. So again, this is a division rivalry. Browns are a hot mess and so forth. And despite the fact that they're a hot mess, they could still win that division if they win 2 games in a row. So that one to me, there's just too many uncertainties. So I would stay away from that one. Stay away from that last piece of holiday fruitcake. Probably gives you gas anyway. And stay away from this game.
Listen, if you still got the leftovers from Christmas, then I think I'd stay away. It's been a week. And that game is the Monday night game too. I forgot to mention with Chase Claypool staying away from him. You definitely don't want to have a player going on Monday in your championship week. So
yeah,
it's true.
Stay away from it's what because that's usually the last Monday game of the season too. I'd stay away from those just in general.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
my stay away game this week is definitely the Chargers in Denver.
Oh, okay.
That's going to be a tough game to pick.
Denver has been like they're an enigma. Are they not? Like I know with some quarterback issues, Teddy getting injured and whatnot, but like I can't figure Denver out.
No, I know, and I'm a huge fan of Bridgewater, but I mean not a huge fan of Bridgewater.
Teddy 2 gloves.
But I am a huge fan of their defense. Their defense is pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah, great defense. And like I like Teddy just because of the story and he's got, Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick and some good running backs behind him. But I don't know. I can't figure out Denver if they're good or not. They started off with 4-0. Started off 4-0 and just, been middling since. So
right.
All right. Well, before we get to Lily's pick of the week, CJ, what do you got for your pick?
Yeah, this one seems almost too good to be true. And even though the number is really big, I love the Patriots over the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. The Patriots have lost 2 games in a row. They've probably got past the hardest part of their season, the past couple of games. They've lost it. They should be spitting tax right now. Jacksonville comes in. You mentioned a couple of guys, James Robinson being out. I think Jacksonville is toast. I think New England's going to win this game by about 30 in my mind. So don't be scared of the big number. 16 points is what the number is right now. I take the Patriots in this game.
Right. Yeah. I it's hard to disagree with that one. It's not hard to lay a lot of points when you're playing against Jacksonville. All right. Well, let's put the spotlight on. It's a brand new year, but we're gonna get the same old winners from Lily. Getting lucky with Lily. What's your lock of the week?
Okay, I have 2 because it's New Year's. I figure I'll give 2.
An added bonus.
I don't know if you're going to agree with me, but first one
You
is
don't always agree with these picks, but they usually end up winning.
right.
Money in the bank.
First one is Arizona to cover.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I like that. That's, as I'm holding my Super Bowl Cardinals ticket still, and like I said, they need to be pulling the parachute because they're plummeting right now. I hope you get them back in the winning circle.
I know. I think they have to turn around. They have to show us who they are.
They absolutely do.
Even though Dallas has to win too for themselves, but I just think Arizona really has to show us who they are this week.
Okay. I mean, because Dallas,
and it's 5.5 points.
Dallas
doable.
Still has, a bye on the line. They need a lot to happen for that, but they still have seeding involved and all that.
Yeah.
But they've already locked up the NFC East. So, they have stuff to play for, but it's not like the desperation of a lot of other teams that are showing. So, it's not even as desperate as the Cardinals should be. So, I like this. I actually like that pick, but that might not be a good thing.
Okay, next pick. Pittsburgh. I'm going with Pittsburgh to cover. It's 3.5 points in our pool. Do you know what it is in Vegas, CJ?
I think that line is kind of in flux right now, but yeah, I think it's still 3.5.
I still see 3.5, but that might change before Monday. CJ just said to stay away from that game.
I know, but you know what? At home, and this is going to be Ben's last game, so he says.
Right.
I can't imagine they're not going to cover at least or win outright.
You know what? CJ mentioning the last home game possibly for Rodgers in Pittsburgh. That kind of like, you know what? Maybe he does have. If there's one guy that's going to go out and have one last, hurrah, I think Ben is one of those guys. I've been down on Ben a lot this year, but the dude's still a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you look at it from a career standpoint, Big Ben actually has owned Cleveland over his career.
Oh yeah.
So it seems to me like even it doesn't really matter what the records are at that particular moment in time. He seems to come up big. Again, I'm not so sure about this year, but again, that's why I say stay away from it. But going with Pittsburgh probably is not a bad thing in this week.
Yeah, and I think that they just won October 31st, 15-10.
Yes, they beat them earlier.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. They don't have to Ben doesn't have to go put up 350 yards and 4 touchdowns for them to win.
No.
They can give the ball to Najee Harris and win 17 to 10 and still cover. So.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So there you have it. Cardinals and Steelers are Lily's locks of the 2022 to start the new year. Glad to be back, guys. Glad to have you back. Glad to have everyone back tuning in, and we will be back next week to wrap up the regular season. What?
Where did it all go?
This is always the worst time of year because it's like, oh my god, like yes, the playoffs are starting all, but it's like football's leaving soon.
Yeah, it's the shortest season of the year, and it's like I go into my football bunker after a while, all spring and all summer, waiting for it to come back in the fall. So
right,
it's depressing when football season ends.
It really is, but hey, we will still be doing this come playoff time because we'll be in talk about what we'll be doing like fantasy advice wise and whatnot, because fantasy obviously shifts more to daily fantasy and whatnot come playoff time. But a lot of people love betting the Super Bowl and stuff like that. So and divisional round and whatnot. So we'll
over unders and so forth. A lot of props. So we can definitely get into those things.
Of course. So we will talk to you next week here from the Smart Gamble. For CJ, for Lily, again, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And we will talk to you next week here from the Smart Gamble.
Yes, and check us out at thesmartgamble.com. We will probably be up and running next week, as well as on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Google My Business.
All right.
All
There you have
righty.
it.
So look for
Exciting
us
times.
next week.
Look for us everywhere: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all social media. The Smart Gamble is where to find us.
All right. Happy New Year. Mwah.